Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we have David Blumenfeld with us, and David is in the AI space in the digital innovation with physical spaces. So David, it's great to have you. I want to know more about your company, NextRivet, but before we go there, give me a little lead into how you actually got to NextRivet.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me. Um, so I've kind of grown up in the San Francisco tech space, spent my whole career here in various tech companies. And then as I got into kind of the intersection of real estate and technology, I was part of the founding executive team at Westfield Labs, which was a digital division of Westfield Malls back in 2012. And our charter was pretty broad there. It was really as e-commerce was starting to get a real foothold and physical retail and certainly shopping centers were concerned that they needed to be more tech forward in order to maintain and retain and attract shoppers. We were really brought in to figure out, what is that digital layer over the physical space, both from a shopper experience as well as a back end operations and just bringing the company as a whole up to speed technologically. I ran business and corporate development for them. My partner at NextRivet ran product marketing, customer success. And so between the two of us, my job was really to go out and find, we were at our peak 60 or 70 people, which is obviously massive for a shopping center or real estate company's innovation group. It's still pretty small for a tech company when you're working across so many different pieces of technology that we were working across. And so most of what we did was most of what we launched was via third parties. And so my job was to go out and find the companies and the technology vendors and startups, et cetera, that we should be working with, get them under contract. And I always joke that my partner had the much harder job of actually operationalizing all those things within the shopping center and convincing the executives to spend money on something maybe they didn't really understand that well. And so between the two of us, we spent about 7 years at Westfield. And because we're based in San Francisco, there were a lot of domestic and international retailer and real estate groups that would come through San Francisco or Silicon Valley kind of on their innovation tech tour. And so they would go meet with Google and Facebook and Twitter and all the known names. And then they realized we were kind of obviously doing technology, but in their space. So we essentially became a stop on that tour. And over the course of those 7 years, we probably met with over 100 companies. And I, myself and my business partner, Kyle, were usually the ones presenting to those companies. And we were fairly open about what we were working on. And more often than not, at the end of those meetings, those companies would turn to us and say, hey, do you think you guys can help us out too? And we'd have to politely decline. And we went back to our executive team, more than once to say, hey, guys, there's a business here, not just a cost center. But there was always the competitive concerns that got in the way. And so in late 2019, unbeknownst that we were screaming towards a pandemic, Kyle and I spun ourselves out and formed NextRivet, which is, as you said in your intro, it's really how do you bring digital technology into the physical environment, and that's ultimately where we started.
So are you still doing tours of Westfield Mall?
Not for free. No, all
That's
kidding
good.
aside, yeah, we certainly, it's funny as sometimes we are asked by, especially with a lot of firms. We work with clients in 15 countries, and we have a lot of times there are clients who are interested in doing kind of tours of other innovative properties. The shopping center space is a copycat industry in a lot of ways. I mean, there's certainly some that are on the forefront, and real estate in general, everybody looks to others for new ideas. And so, not unlike the physical space, they're also looking for ideas in the digital space as well.
So what's the primary driver for a shopping center? Do they want to know about the shopper's experience first? Where do they typically come into this cadre of different technologies?
It's a great question. I think in the past it's been a lot around the shopper experience. How do you attract more shoppers? How do you keep them? How do you kind of build out that experience so that it's complementary and they're using digital tools to complement what's available physically. I think as the technology has gotten better, and certainly with the onset of AI, there's now more as much of a focus on, okay, how do we actually run our buildings more efficiently, whether that be from an operational perspective, a security perspective, or whatnot. You're really looking at a lot more of kind of the guts of the building now, not just the customer or the tenant experience.
So what size mall basically benefits best from your consulting practices?
It's interesting. It's a great question. We work with all sizes. I would say, certainly the larger Westfields of the world, are a natural fit. But there's also, I think, what's fascinating about the U.S. and elsewhere. Like there are so many real estate companies, whether it's commercial, because we also work across commercial, multifamily, residential. There are so many companies that are big and small. I would say, so we work a lot with the large, kind of the tier one guys, but there's a huge middle tier, or middle class, so to speak, of real estate companies that we work with. And it's, everybody's got the same challenges. Certainly at a bigger property, you just have bigger scale and potentially more budget to do more things. But there's a lot to be done in that middle tier as well.
So are you saying, I mean, do you have any idea how many vendors you have in your list of things that you provide to different property owners?
Yeah, it's hundreds, if not thousands, depending on what we're working on. So, we don't claim to be all things to all people, but again, as we've talked about, we are technology agnostic, meaning we are not selling a certain technology. We are not recommending a certain technology because we have a special deal with some company. Our focus is on helping our clients find the right solution based on what they're actually figuring out what their needs are and then finding the right solution for those needs. So, if you're looking at, I'll just give you a couple examples. If you're looking at, gosh, I want to upgrade my parking system. I want to have license plate recognition and tie that to a credit card and a loyalty program. In that one solution itself, there could be 5 or 6 vendors. And that's just the final vendors that you choose, let alone if you were RFPing all of that, you're out to 30, 40, 50 vendors just in that set. And the same goes for if you're looking at, a building management system or a property management system or a leasing platform. You're looking at 10, 20, 30 companies in each one of those areas. So it's in some ways it's exponential, and some of the value we provide, right, is to be able to take that huge list of potential companies and really kind of pare it down based on your needs. And so that you're not having to sift through all these vendors, not understanding what the benefits of one versus the other are. And that's where a lot of our clients lean on us to do that.
So well, I don't know, do you get into sort of an HR function? I mean, some of these potential property owners probably don't have people available to run some of these systems. So how is that handled?
Yeah, well, my wife runs an HR consulting firm, so I leave the HR to her. But
Okay,
um,
good.
but no, yes, we do come in as kind of extra pairs of hands, if you will, and that's a lot of times, either people have no one on staff, or they'll have one person where maybe innovation or kind of new projects is part of their job, but they certainly don't have the time or the bandwidth to run these full scale projects, and that's really where we get brought in, and we can work off in a silo if you want us to, but our best engagements are really where we're working kind of hand in hand with the team members on in the companies themselves, so that not only are we progressing a project kind of together, and it's not just a kind of big reveal at the end of the day, but it's also so that we're doing some cross training with the organization as well. So that once these projects are live, ideally they have the resources, or will help them figure out what resources they need to run these systems on an ongoing basis.
So I'm curious, are you getting mostly word of mouth kind of referrals to your business, or are you out there marketing?
Yeah, we're doing both. We're now in our 6th year, so certainly we get a good amount of referrals, but we do our own outreach. We do some marketing. We're at a lot of industry events. I do a fair amount of speaking as well, and so it's really kind of the combination of all those things. Certainly using LinkedIn as a platform of outreach. But you always have to be marketing yourself in some way. The second you do, especially as a consultant, the X amount of months later, your pipeline is not looking as good as it did before. So you got to keep the pedal down, so to speak.
So are you using a CRM?
Yes, we do. We do. We use a company called Pipedrive to help us
Oh, cool.
manage our CRM.
Yeah. So you're keeping track of everything and so forth. So you can, I mean, if you're in 50 countries, I assume you're probably in Dubai and Europe and Japan and all over the place.
Yes, yes, we've clients in Dubai and Riyadh. Actually, the Middle East is a pretty interesting area right now, just given there's not a lot of places in the world where new shopping centers, a lot of new big developments are taking place. So we spent a fair amount of time over there, especially in the last year, trying to get a foothold and get deeper into those markets.
Well, and those particular shopping centers want to know all about customers and technology and all those things, I would assume. So
Yes.
probably a great market. So I'm curious, can you give me some clue or our listeners some clue of how much your services might cost?
Yeah, it really, it really ranges. And I know that's a wishy-washy answer, but it could be, we've done projects, we can do projects for, a tiny little project could be, just right around like low five figures. We've done projects certainly in the six figures. There are a few unicorns in the seven, but I would say it really depends on the scope of work. If it's, hey, we just need you to go out and look at a few vendors for us and help us make a decision, that's going to be a lower price item than say, hey, help us come in, develop a roadmap, work on the vendor selection, and actually manage that project all the way to launch. That's obviously a much, bigger project, but we're a services company, right? So it's really based on our time and expertise. We're not charging you something hundreds of thousands of dollars if it doesn't take us that amount of time to actually get those projects done.
Yeah. So it's basically fee-based, sort of hourly based or some work as you go type approach.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that sounds like a very good system to go through, and people are probably very happy with your services, I would think, because this is a whole new area that particularly shopping centers are not all that familiar with all these new technologies.
Correct. Correct. And it's really, I think I equate it to, like, I wouldn't, I spent most of my career on the digital side, and you've got people who are experts in physical space. I would not even pretend to come in and say I'm an expert at all in a physical space. But at the same token, you can't suddenly be an expert in physical and an expert in digital. And there are a few people who are, but that's a rare breed. So it's really kind of what's your subject matter expertise, and that's really what we're bringing to the table from a digital perspective.
Have you gotten involved in any theater lighting, anything like that, theaters?
We really haven't. Our again, we've kind of been in that mixed use suite between retail and commercial and residential. We did a little bit of airport work at Westfield. My co-founder Kyle Spencer used to run marketing for the Golden State Warriors.
Oh,
So we've got a little sports experience in the house. Um, but we've got a lot to do in the areas that we're in. But we have, I would say this, we have done a little bit of spot work in the restaurant space,
oh.
um, which is, in a way, a form of retail. And there's a lot of applicability, obviously, to the hospitality space as well.
Yeah, no, there's a bunch of crossover going on in all these different spaces, and I would think, you just have to focus on your current market and go from there. So how many
Yep.
people do you have working with you now?
So we are a massive team of two, but but
I
we've but we've
love it. I love it.
we've essentially kind of, I mean, it's kind of the new economy. We have subject matter experts that we kind of on our bench that we'll pull into different engagements. So, for example, we have somebody who's an expert in parking systems. Like there's so many nuances to that technology. We'll pull him in for different engagements. We have somebody on the digital media side that we'll pull in. We'll somebody on the customer data side that we'll pull in. And then we did a recent partnership with a company called CoreSite, and actually launched a joint venture called CoreRivet, which gives us a lot more kind of market research expertise, but also a lot more horsepower from an advisory and a consulting perspective.
So what's Core Rivet's business proposition?
Um, It's similar to NextRivet's proposition, but we get the added services that CoreSite does in the market, which is again the higher end market research and some of the kind of go to market strategy and advising. So if you think about a larger consulting firm, they have a lot of that stuff, and so we now have kind of more arrows in the quiver, so to speak. But a lot of times, as a practical example, somebody will say, "Hey, I need to develop a digital roadmap, but before I do that, can I understand better what's happening in the market or what's happening in other properties around the world?" We can do a trend scrape ourselves, but we're not a research company. And so we've kind of been working together behind the scenes for the last couple of years and decided it was an opportunity to kind of launch it more formally in the market. I think where we do differentiate ourselves from the larger consulting firms, the McKinseys, Deloitte's of the world, is that we're not just going to give you a beautiful 200-page PowerPoint. We're also then going to take it from the PowerPoint and actually get it delivered for you. And I think that's where the big gap in the market is.
Yeah, no, I would think that would be, yeah. McKinsey and I'm not that familiar with what they do, but I don't think they're so much on the implementation side. So I think that would be, yeah, a very valuable product for shopping centers and multifamily, big multifamily, and any other property owners that want to get kind of more on the digital side because it's becoming more and more important as we go down the road here.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this has been a great, interesting, wonderful conversation. Let's just end with your favorite food just for fun.
Favorite food, living in San Francisco, there's so many options, but I'm just gonna go old standby. I gotta go with a slice of pizza. I think a pepperoni mushroom pizza, that's, I'm happy glass of wine. That's all you need.
That's all we need. All right. Well, this has been a fun conversation. I look forward to actually talking with you and working with you in the future here because I think there's a crossover that could happen.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.